speaker.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday Feast program. Today, our guest speaker is Her Grace Akuti Devi Dasi Mataji. Mataji joined Srila Prabhupada's mission in 1970. She helped start the temple in Dallas, where she also got married to His Grace Dinabandhu Das Prabhuji. She's been to many places such as Houston, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, Portland, Oregon, Miami, and also Colombia in South America, where she went back to help start a Gurukul. Currently, she's running an eco farm in Alachua, trying to teach what we preach, simple living and higher thinking. So we're very fortunate to have her association, and I'd like to welcome Mataji and hand it over to her. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes,
Everything's all right? So thank you for the opportunity to see your nice faces and the nice deities. Worship is going on, although the situation isn't like it was when I was there a couple years ago, but it's going on. That's nice. Nice to see you, Krishna Dalal. Hare Krishna. Without your mask, it'd be better. um, anyway, I was asked to give the Sunday feast lecture, and so I picked a topic. I'm not specifically a verse, but a topic. But I thought I'd chant Jai Radha Madhava first, just a short little warm up, if you don't mind. I don't know if you can see me. You don't need to see me, I guess. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Ballabha Giridhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Ballabha Giridhari Yashoda Nana Bhaja Janna Ranjana Yashoda Nana Bhaja Janna Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Mara Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bala Giridhari. So I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember way back in I think it was the 60s. And this was a Broadway hit at one time. It was actually a musical, and it had Sammy Davis Jr. in there and some other people. Maybe only Lakshmani would remember the name of the hit, and that was "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off." And this was a famous theater group that did it. But the topic is very apropos, I think. Sometimes we actually feel like, oh, please, just the world is going so fast. Just stop. Just let me get off. And recently, I'm sure many people are wishing that. But the story was that there was a girl who wanted to be an actress on Broadway, and she went through many trials and tribulations. She wanted to be a success. She wanted to be the actress, and she went through many, many disappointments. And that's what happens in the material world, that it's, we have so many plans. It's said that we have so many plans, but God just laughs at our plans. And of course, we all want to be, we're all wannabes. We want to be this, we want to be that. I wanted to be a famous water skier, and I wanted to be so many things. I'm sure we could go around and everyone had some dream of something they wanted to be. But we actually wanted to be, of all things, we wanted to, in the spiritual world, we wanted to be the supreme enjoyer. And that was our greatest mistake. And there can only be one supreme enjoyer, and that, of course, is the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Krishna arranged that we got to be somewhere else. We got to be here in this very fast moving material world, which is full of different problems. We have our health problems, as we see going around the world. Financing is a problem. Sometimes education. The material nature is a problem. We see over and over again more natural disturbances on the increase all the time. So life is not really what we expected it to be, where we would be the topmost enjoyer. So it's something like at a carnival. I'm sure some of you, I think you have a street down in Russell. I remember right down the street, the times that I would come, it was right before carnival, they would set up down in some little park. And I remember I would chant down that park. So carnivals are big things, especially in small towns. And they always have these rides that go around and around and around. And I hated carnivals. You know, someone would pick me up and say, you want to go to the carnival? I go, well, I don't want to go on the rides. I hated to go around in circles. And they would always be screaming and everyone would be getting sick and everything like that. It would just seem like a whole lot of fun. And this material world is something like that. But we want to go on a joyride. We want to go on a joyride, but we don't want Krishna to be there. So not very far from where I live in Alachua, there's a Disney World, although I live only 2 hours from it. I've never been to it, but I've looked up some of the joy rides, and these are some of the names of the wonderful rides that you get to go on. One of them is called the Tower of Terror. Doesn't that sound like fun? And then there's Insanity. That's another name of some other ride. And another one is the Wicked Twister. So this is how everyone has fun. Everyone's screaming, and many people do want to get off, but it doesn't stop. And that's the trouble, that this material world just doesn't stop. There's always people falling in the material world, always wanting to be Krishna. And so therefore it has to keep running. And it's not really a great amusement park. But we try our best to have a good time, right? We go there thinking that, well, it used to cost 50 cents to get in. Now it costs $50 at the minimum to walk in the door. And you end up spending $500 for each person in there. So, but we think we're going to have a great time. So ideally, we would like it to stop sometimes when it's going too fast, but it doesn't. So we have some other ways to still amuse ourselves. We think that we can slow down the process. We think that just take intoxication. That's the best thing. Then I can just like drown my problems, and use of drugs and things like that is rampant now, thinking that they're going to stop some of the misery or dull it or numb it in some way. And then there's another way that some people that were like me, they were like party poopers. They really didn't want to do certain things, but the peer pressure would force them, or the modes of nature make you do things that you really don't want to do, but you more or less end up wasting your time. And you try to resist, but it's difficult. And then there's some people that just grin and bear it, like biting the bullet. And somebody might come up and say, you know, how you doing? You know, and you're miserable inside. And you say, I'm great. I'm good. I'm good. How are you? I'm good. You know, every time you go to a cashier, how's it going? Oh, everything's fine. Everything's great. You never hear the person say, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me. So we grin and we bear it. So this is what much of the population does in these days, is they just tolerate and pretend like they're enjoying. And then there's the people that are in total denial. They just think that everything's really okay. It's supposed to be like this, and that's the way it is, and it's not so bad. You know, it's just the way it is. And there's that story of Lord Indra, who was in the topmost penthouse, and he got a little bit out of his position, and thought that he was the greatest thing, and he misused his power, and he ended up getting cursed and becoming a pig, a hog. And he got so in denial of what he was actually doing. He had his little piglets, his family, and then he got all nice and fat from eating horrible things. And then he was called back to his duty in Indraloka, and he said, "No, I'm fine. Everything's fine here. I got my nice family. I got all these wonderful little piglets with me, and a nice wife. I got actually a lot of wives, and I'm doing really good." So this is a lack of discrimination. It's an animalistic um, mentality that, oblivious to all the misery, um, not even questioning that, oh, really, I'm going to die? And then there's the people that just have hope. They have great hope that it's going to get better. It's going to get better, just like this woman. I'm going to be successful. Yeah, it's going to get better and better. But how many lifetimes it's going to take being on this Ferris wheel, on these rides again and again? And it could be a lot of lifetimes. So we have to wake up to the fact that Maya is not going to slow down the material world. She's not going to put on the brake and let us off. So we have to figure out how to be here in the material world, but really not be part of it. Because she's always promising that it's going to get better. She promises that she's going to have faster rides. She's going to have new drugs. You're going to get a new tablet. You're going to get a new phone. You're going to get a new video game or a new sport to waste your time in. Now there's a sport that you stand across from somebody and you slap each other as hard as you can until someone just faints or falls down or their head falls off. A lot of fun, great sport. So this is some of the wonderful things that are promising, that she says that things are going to get better, more exciting. They just simply bind us here more. That we put our seatbelt on and we're bound to this Ferris wheel, this carnival. So this is really not for the intelligent person to trust these promises, because not only does she have promises of all these wonderful things, but then she has some other new things. She has new ways of new diseases. Yeah, she thought of a good one, huh? It was COVID. So she has lots of tricks. She has new perverted lifestyles that we never could have imagined in our lives that is going on, and new sinful reactions. I'm sure are being concocted, to give the results of all these sinful activities. So she's a bad master. Also in these carnivals, I remember some of the most fun was going in these lopsided houses that are tilted, and you feel all off balance and you can't really walk straight, and everything's kind of illusory. It's something like in the Mahabharata, when you remember Mayadanava in Hastinapur, he was asked to make an assembly hall and different things, and the water looked like land and the land looked like water, and then Duryodhana fell in, and that was the beginning of the end, right? That was the beginning of the Kurukshetra war, when he was made fun of. So yes, everything is off balance in this material world. It's a big illusion. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he in one of his songs, it's called Durlabha Manava, about how to utilize this human form of life. He discusses this in one verse. It's almost perfect. He says, "What kind of world is this? It seems to be just like a magic lantern show, wherein so many shadows and optical illusions dance magically before my eyes. I feel great attachment and identification with such a world, and thus day after day passes without any purpose whatsoever." So we're in this crazy world and we don't know what's the proper thing to do. We don't know what we should or shouldn't do. And we can't balance our lives. We don't know how to balance matter and spirit. It's all lopsided, all towards sense gratification. And it's really not our home. It's just a phantasmagoria, as it's described many times. It's really, we're not really comfortable here, although we pretend to be. There's a very nice series of um, radio shows that we used to do in Los Angeles when I was there, and they were televised every Sunday. And but it's called Radio Rom, and there's one really nice little spurt that they did. It was called Reality Tours, and it really shows you what the material world really is like, and it goes something like this. I won't do it justice, but there's a bus pulls up, and this is in Hollywood, and this couple gets on. They're all excited. Oh, I can't wait to see some stars. Oh, I can't wait to see all the beautiful homes. We're gonna have such a good time. Oh, I can't wait. And they get on the bus, and the bus driver goes, "This is Reality Tours. Everyone fasten their seatbelts. First stop is the old age home." And the lady goes, "Harry, I thought we were going to go see the stars. I thought we were gonna," and then they pull up to the old age home, and they see all the misery there. And the lady's freaking out. And then, "This isn't what I thought it was going to be like." And then he goes, "Next stop is the morgue." And they just got some bodies in from here and there. And over on Fifth Street, there was a shooting. And so he goes on. It goes on like that. It's quite hilariously done, but it's true. It's the reality, the real tour of what this material world is like. So the intelligent person will want to really get off of this ride and get back on the path, going back to the spiritual world, which is our real home. And that requires learning how to really please Krishna, not ourselves. And so that's what we teach in our temples, in your temples. That's what all the training is. That's what all the performances of the artiks and the prasadam and everything is all about. How the learning the arts and science of how to please Krishna. And it's learning how to take matter, it's like magic, and turn it and give it to Krishna, and it turns to spirit. It's really a mystical thing. It's a way to use the best use of this bad bargain, which is this material world. We can actually make it the spiritual world, not necessarily that we have to leave our bodies to experience that. We can actually get some realizations even while we're in these material bodies. But the amazing thing is that if I was to go and tell people, "Yeah, stop the world, I want to get off," and so I say, "Okay, so where do you want to go? If I stop the world, where would you like to go?" And do you know that there's actually over 200,000 people that have signed up to be on the first shuttle to the moon, to go live on the moon? So people are thinking this is their mentality, that I'm just going to it's just going to be a little bit better. It'll be like this, but it's going to be, heavenly. Crazy, that someone actually thinks that maybe I should just get frozen, and then when I wake up, everything will be just perfect, and we'll all be eternally here on planet Earth. And I've actually talked to one girl. I remember one time I asked her, "Well, what is it that you think is your goal of life?" She says, "I just want to disappear. I just want to be gone in oblivion." So many people want heavenly planets. They want to disappear. They want to go into effulgence. How many people really want to go back with an eternal relationship with God? It's amazing how many people haven't seen that's an option. So therefore, we have a lot of work to do. There's so much we need to do to improve things in our own consciousness, so that we can have that desire, that real desire to leave this world. It's hard not to think that we could just put some real pretty Band-Aids here and real Band-Aids here, make it a little better, and then it's going to be all right. There's a great story. I had realizations of this story. I'd heard it, but when I went to India the first time on the Ganges, they used to they used to go across the river on a boat. You'd walk the boat up the river, and then you'd float down, and they would just angle it just so that you'd end up at the other side coming down. But they're usually a little teeny kid, really small, and his father would be on the boat, and then the kid would be on the bank and be pulling the boat upstream. And the banks are like this, really rough, and I'm sure you've all been to Mayapur and gone barefoot on there's rocks, and it's up and down. And Prabhupada tells a story of that a very wealthy person was on one of these boats and saw the poor boatman working so hard, and he said, "Oh, I'll give you whatever you want. What would you like?" He goes, "Could you just give me some pillows so that I can put them on the bank so that my feet don't hurt so bad when I'm walking?" So this is the mentality. Just make it a little bit better, then it won't hurt so much. But fortunately, the seeker of the absolute truth, they can see the real situation. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says that from the highest planet to the lowest planet, they're all places of misery. And really, you just need to come back to me, and that will solve all your problems. So we need to listen to these instructions, and we need to follow the instructions in order to become qualified, because in the spiritual world, we need to hear more about that there is no boredom, that there's no envy, there's no hatred. I just had a girl spend the night last night from the preaching center. She's very, very new. And I was trying to explain to her that the spiritual world is not a boring place. So I picked up the Brahma Samhita and I read the arts and sciences that they have in the spiritual world. It's just like, wow, I want to learn all this, how to set cornets on your head, how to put jewels, and how to do metallurgy, and how to do all kinds of, it's not a boring place. It's not like we're going to go there and just, be told what to do and, in a church bench, be lectured to all day. No, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. And the weather's much better than Ottawa, I'm sure. Doesn't get really cold or anything. And the Krishna is always there playing the flute. So this is what we should hanker to go to. But the ticket to get there is they don't take credit cards. I'm sorry to tell you that you have to prepay. You have to have a purified consciousness. And that means there's no me or mine or I. That whole selfish mentality has to be erased from our consciousness. It requires a lot of change of attitude on our parts. And we find that rotten attitude that we had that got us here in the first place, it pops up. It doesn't go away so easily, especially if we're not serving the devotees and serving other people and serving Krishna. Then we're always thinking that, come serve me. So, but this is the sacrifice that we have to make in this lifetime. We have to really learn how to have the proper attitude that Krishna will be so pleased that he'll want us. He'll open those pearly gates. He'll want us to come back to him. It has to be that pure and clean. So there's a lot of sacrifice we have to do. That means that sometimes we can't do everything we want to do. And sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. And usually that's pretty much on a daily basis that I find that we have to be so convinced that I want to go in the spiritual direction. I want to get off this ride in the material world. You have to be so convinced that you're willing to do these sacrifices. That means the morning program. That means chanting Hare Krishna. These are sacrifices, and they do mean something. A sacrifice means you get something out of it. There's a whole piece of time in Satya Yuga, or the next Yuga, that was just sacrificing. that would give you the strength and the ability to obtain the highest goal. It's not recommended now, but our sacrifice is different. And Krishna's representative has come here and has told us the proper sacrifices. Lord Chaitanya demonstrated the sacrifices, and Srila Prabhupada has brought them to us very nicely and very politely, told us what sacrifices will really give us the strength and the conviction to obtain this permission to enter the spiritual world. So that's why we do these things. That's why we chant, and that's why we pray, and all the 9 processes of devotional service. And if we don't do them, we can't expect the results of purification. We can't expect to really make that payment to Krishna and for him to accept it. It just doesn't happen that way. You just like on a credit card, if you don't pay it, you're in big hot water. So this training in bhakti is wonderful. It really helps us. It helps us to increase our vision so that we can see when Maya's flashing all these things in front of us, which she does every day. She'll have something to try to lure you. But in training, we learn. We have the technology, the built-in, radar to see. Nope, I see you, Maya. No way, I'm not going there. I know not to go there. What's favorable? What's not favorable? We get trained in those things. When you take those vows of initiation, you know what's favorable, what's not favorable. If you don't know, you ask your guru, right? So there's no question. There's no hazy in between. So therefore, we can ward off Maya's big charge on us. And then, of course, the training in bhakti gives us a higher taste. Everyone can remember the first time they did the service in the temple, even just washing pots or whatever it was. It was like, wow, this is really nice. There was a new boy that just came here. Just by chance, I was in the temple when he was kind of just passing through. And I said, why don't you stick around and help? And then he went wash some pots. And he was in ecstasy. I said, boy, he says, this is so great, just washing pots, right here. And he's still around. And so, yeah, you get a higher taste. Somehow or other, devotional service is just special. And it only gets better. And there's so many different things you can do. So it's easy to overcome our attachments because we get attached to our services, to doing all these wonderful things to Krishna. And then the training in bhakti also, the scriptures and the knowledge is described that it's like the knife that cuts away all this illusion. And it gives us that ability with that knowledge to really balance our lives, to make it so that we can remain in the material world, but above it. And it really makes a difference. Otherwise, you're going to get dragged down. So the training and the rules and regulations is all there. The sacrifice is there, but we get a discount. We get a discount price. Lord Chaitanya has made it so easy. Some of the sacrifices were pretty pricey, but our sacrifice, joyful. Kevala Nanda Kanda, right? We pick up our instruments, we chant, we can paint for Krishna, we can do anything, so many wonderful things for Krishna. And we can do it with everybody together, except for during COVID. And we can, it's a joyful process. So, and it's easy. It's not real difficult. It doesn't cost a lot of money. And anyone can do it. Fat, skinny, whatever. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. And so this is a discounted price. I mean, we'd be foolish not to take it up. And so this is not only that mercy of Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya has also given us the mercy of the holy name, which is Krishna. Just right there, every Christian can be there at any moment, anytime. And also, the Krishna helps us. He gives us a guidance, and he gives us strength through his representatives. and he himself, and through his scriptures and instructions. He doesn't just leave us on our own. I mean, we blew it. We came here, but he's trying to arrange things so that we can get off this crazy ride and go back to him. So we have to realize the respect that we should give to all those devotees that are willing to accept disciples on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, and to give us guidelines and help to stay on this path. So this also, this whole training, it works on our desires. The desires for sense gratification go very, very deep. And sometimes we just don't really think that we want to leave this material world. Even as devotees, we think, well, I don't really want to leave yet. I still got a few things on my bucket list, and it's actually really nice weather now, and we don't have to wear a mask here in Florida, and things are getting better, and but we have to realize that this tower of terror, this roller coaster that we're on, it's not worth it. We have to desire to really get off, and that what can we do to get that desire stronger? And that's to take to the training more seriously, because that's what works on our desire, and to work and to serve the other devotees that do have that desire. That's what really, really helps. And then, of course, to be humble and realize our shortcomings. This also helps a lot in that desire to help us make our hearts very soft. When the pride is very strong, the heart can be very hard. But when you're humble, usually they're very soft-hearted people. And in that soft ground, just like it just rained here, and the ground is very soft now. It's easy to plant and easy to pluck out all those weeds that grow alongside of our little creepers, our little bhakti creeper, which is so tender. And so those other little desires have to be plucked out. And when you're humble, it's easier to pluck them out. But when the false ego is saying, "Oh no, I'm doing good, I'm fine. I don't need devotee association. I can do it on my own. Forget it." Your creeper's going to get strangled. So this is the best. This bhakti is the best atmosphere to grow that strongest attachment to Krishna, and automatically the desire for the other things go away. As long as the more you desire to do service to Krishna, then the desires for all those things that we want to do for ourselves, for this body in this lifetime, they become insignificant. But we have to stay in that fire. And then we can experience real intoxication, the intoxication of some real love of God within our hearts. I haven't experienced it yet, but we all have received some little taste that keeps us here, chanting and serving more and more. And we know it'll only increase. So it's not the intoxication of the material world. This is a special nectar of devotional service that Krishna very nicely gives us, puts little drops in our mouth every once in a while. And we should relish that. And as far as screaming like they scream on these rides, we can scream in ecstasy, the holy names, anywhere, everywhere, and see other people become intoxicated with the holy name. We're looking forward to our first Rath Yatra in quite a while. And we don't have our cultural program, but in Daytona on the beach, in a couple of weeks, we get to let it all out on Harinam on the beach. And we're really looking forward to it. You don't really realize what a gift we have with going out and the freedom of chanting and the association of devotees until you lose it. So I think we've all learned some lessons by this disease in the material world, but we don't want to have to come back here and do it again. So best we scream to Krishna, please, oh Lord, please engage me in your devotional service. And hopefully that will take our final ride of a lifetime. And that'll be on the back of Garuda, back to the spiritual world. So these are some thoughts I've been having about the difference between material and spiritual pleasure, and how to utilize this material world in this lifetime to really stop the world, to stop this birth and death that we've been on, and to really get out. It's scary to think that we could come back here again. I mean, it's really scary that we'll have to go through this whole thing, and it's only going to get worse. And as we've seen, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And the terror ride is going to get more frightening. So we should take seriously the process that's needed. Nothing really can be omitted. We have to do everything Prabhupada said if we really want to get that ticket. So maybe someone has some questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Mother Akuti, for your presentation. It's very nice to hear from you, and nice to see you again, actually.
I see you.
We saw you a while ago. It's not your first Zoom appearance with us. I think there's been a few.
Yeah.
Some morning classes and also for a Sunday feast. So, dear devotees, yes, please, let's bring up the questions. There is a feature at the bottom of the screen, which is called reactions, and you can raise your hand, right? You can click raise hand there, and maybe we could take some of the questions or comments in order. As the hands go up, I'll call them out.
And maybe someone would like to contribute and tell some experience of how they've been able to have some success. There are many success stories about how you can be in this material world but not be part of it.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of taking shelter, the proper shelter of the devotees and of the instructions of Prabhupada. Maybe someone has some contributions they'd like to make.
Yes, we have a hand from Vraja. Please go ahead.
No.
Oh, Hare Krishna. I have two different comments, but maybe I'll just make one now, and then after, if there's room, then I'd make another one. One thing I was.
Can you speak louder, Vraja, a little bit?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's better.
Okay. And one point that I liked that you were saying that I don't think I really connected it before was the comparison between peer pressure and the modes of material nature. So sometimes we don't want to do something, but we're peer pressured, by friends or, a social environment. And I think we can all relate to that. And then relating that to what is that? Or it can be also the modes of material nature that forces us to act in a certain way.
Yes, so many people are doing things they don't want to do, but you're just forced. I feel sorry, especially in your tender young age. It's so heavy, I so many times I knew my parents didn't want me to do something, but my friend said, "Let's go do it," and I did it. Luckily, I didn't get caught, but we do get caught ultimately, and the senses catch us up, and then we get habits. You actually get bad habits, and then you're gone. You're a goner. It just takes that little bit of peer pressure, and the soul is really pure. It doesn't want to do these horrible things, but you see the Maya's tough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vraja. We have any other comments? Oh, we have Mother Ann is raising her hand. Please, Mother Ann, go ahead.
Krishna, thank you very much, Mother, for your very interesting and dense lecture. And actually, it's just a comment that I'm going to make. I still need to reflect. I took some note during your presentation, and I still need to reflect on them. But I really appreciated the link you made between amusement park and material world, because we hear often the prison parallel or analogy, but not the amusement park. And I thought it was more accurate in the way I perceive the material world. And so I appreciated it. And also you mentioned how devotional service would help us be in the material world, but not part of it. And actually, well, maybe this is a question. Could you please expand on that? On the role of devotional service, maintaining us above the material world.
There are so many stories of devotees that, especially a long time ago when we had a lot of downtown centers and a lot of people on the streets, and like in Brooklyn, I'm still sure that people still walk into our temples and they're just like, they say that they walked into the spiritual world. They walk by a kirtan party and they're just transformed. It's a whole different vibration. So these are very, devotional service is very potent. It's not of this material world. It's actually the spiritual world. And if we were really, really, really careful in our chanting, that I think it's Rupa Goswami that says, just the two syllables, Krishna, just hearing those two syllables, it says it makes me want thousands of tongues. And it goes on describing it. You know, we're chanting Hare Krishna all the time. Are we experiencing that? So if one really has just any really contact with the holy name, and with Srila Prabhupada, so many stories of us seeing him and being mesmerized. So devotional service is not of this world. It's a different world. And there's so many, people that will attest to that and show how. And then they would walk back out and they go, how can I go back out there after I've experienced this? So that's why these temples are important. And that's why Harinama is important, to let people experience it.
Thank you very much, Mother Akuti. We had another question from Guru Prasad Prabhu, or comment. Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Akuti Prabhu, thank you very much for your very practical presentation, and I picked up a few points. I want to also contribute a little bit. Dealing with mind, it doesn't matter, mind is always there. So occasionally a few things actually seem to bother me. Maybe I haven't fully grasped the philosophy 100%. There are some little bit doubts lingering, but I even don't know how to actually express that. So that's an added problem. If I can actually articulate it properly, maybe someone can help me. But I decide to do this practice. Doesn't matter, I don't understand, that's my limitation. So there are people who are smarter than me, and I see them. I see them, how they relish devotional service, how they are progressing, and how they are able to make others experience. I see that so whenever this thing happens to me, I try to ignore that part of it, saying that I'm not probably fully grasping it, doesn't matter. I look at the example of other devotees. So in this respect, I really think that I'm a humble prayer is I never be separate from the association of devotees. I think that is where I think I'm going to find my strength. Of course, chanting and rendering service is definitely part of it. It cannot be separate. They all go hand in hand. Chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and even all the most of the process of 9 process of devotional service is actually done better in the association of devotees. That's my experience.
Maybe someone knows the percentage, but there's a statement by Prabhupada of the scriptures of what percentage of our advancement is the association of devotees. Anybody knows that percentage? It's a big percentage. So yes, our shelter, I was just listening to lecture of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada equated being attached to Krishna and attached to the devotees, as far as that attachment leading us out of here. So yeah, so that's good. Yeah, be attached to the devotees. They're, yeah, a big muscle in our strength of defeating Maya.
Thank you so much. One thing that I thought also, Mother Kuti, when you were talking about the amusement park and about the roller coasters, I was thinking, oh, we have to give up roller coasters? There's kids love roller coasters. It's so much fun. But on the other hand, as you were saying, if we regulate ourselves or if we really want to go for the authentic thing, like Prabhupada used to say, devotees used to say when they had these flyers back in the day, stay high forever. You want to go on the ultimate roller coaster, you get involved with the Krishnas, right? They know what it's about, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They know how to enjoy.
Do we have any other contributions or questions, devotees?
Hare Krishna, just to add to what you just said, Krishna Dulal Prabhu, I think we had the biggest fall possible in the roller coaster ride. So we came all the way from in association of Krishna and spiritual realm down to this material world. So now is the question of whether when we move up, whether we're going to have enough acceleration to really go up so far that we don't have to come down again.
Jai, yes.
Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
nice to see you all.
Thank you very much, Mother Akuti, again, once again. And thank you all for your wonderful
It
questions.
says on here, Surendra raised hand.
Oh, is there a hand, Surendra Prabhu? Yes. Surendra Prabhu, please.
Okay, so I am allowed. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Akuti Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I've seen you after some time. You were here in Russell and we met for the first time. I don't know whether you remember me, but I remember your face. Sometimes people just don't listen by simply word of mouth. And I tell you, my experience is that when I moved to Canada first time, and my wife came and we were young, and I have never been to any of these rides. So in Toronto, me and my wife went to roller coaster. That is our first roller coaster, my first roller coaster. And we went, and it was probably 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever time. The moment it starts, we started reciting Hanuman Chalisa. It won't stop, and we wanted to get off that roller coaster. I did not know how to recite, but my wife remembered that, and we just wanted to get off that. And after that, that was it. We never been to those parts. So
Yeah.
the point is, coming back to a question, is a desire. That how we get desire out of ignorance, and that I want to enjoy. Basically, I means personally, the body wants to enjoy it. I mean, there is in that desire, there is influence of material modes of nature, which is further divided into the type of association, of food habits. And this is, I'm talking about everything sattvic. Within the temple, still there is a desires, and you're chanting and everything, but these desires come. And what is your suggestion, or what is your analysis, or what is the opinion in the scriptures about this?
These desires are like ghosts in a closet we've had in our closets for a long time, for many lifetimes, and they haunt us. Even in this one lifetime, I hear a song that reminds me of some stupid thing I did before I was a devotee, and that little desire all of a sudden pops up again. So we can't do too much about the past desires except for drown them out. Drown them out with some engagement in Krishna consciousness that we get so absorbed in that we're always desiring to make that project better, or to do this service better, to please my guru better. And those desires, if you're so busy in Krishna consciousness, if you keep your cup of milk up to the top all the time, there's no room for the ink. There's no room for dirt, and those desires will subside, and they can be burned. If you're in the fire of devotional service, they can get singed. They might not completely go away, but they can be transferred. And I see that some of the desires that I had a long time ago, Krishna fulfilled them in a way that just fried them, and now they're gone. You know, he did it maybe not a very tasteful way, so that I was just like, you want to spit it out. Okay, that's enough of that one. But we have to make sure that we're going positive all the time, that our desires to go towards Krishna, like I heard there's now a farm project or whatever it is, that your desires are going towards Krishna, and then those other ones will fade out. That's our hope. And we can pray for Krishna to help us to drown those, but they are some ghosts there. And if we keep chanting louder and louder and don't listen to them.
Thank you very much. And the most important point you made here is that if your cup is filled with milk,
Right.
because the bhakti is a ras and a ras is a liquid. And I was hearing one of the lectures is that when you have your pot filled with the liquid, you cannot add anything. But if it's filled with the dry stuff, you can add things into it. So it's a very nice point you made, is that filled with the liquid, actually, which is a very...
So you need to find some service that you really like, that is so enjoyable, and all your desires are fulfilled because Krishna's fulfilled. He's very happy.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So Hare Krishna. So I guess unless we haven't, do you have room for any more questions, Mother Akuti?
I don't see that there's anyone asking anymore.
Okay.
But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And again, we look forward to hopefully seeing you soon again, maybe in person. Maybe you're going to come and visit us again sometime again.
I have a feeling I will.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And thank you, devotees, for your wonderful questions and comments, contributions. And now to conclude the program, we're going to have a few more minutes of kirtan and some darshan with the deities, and we will conclude the program for today. Hare Krishna. Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I don't know. The cartels. Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Krishna Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Shri Sundavani Pastita Sita Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya
Paramahamsa Parivarikacharya Sutra Shastra, His Divine Grace of High Charavarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Niti Leela Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarikacharya Sutra Shastra, His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai, Namacharya Shiva Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपगोपीनाथ मुकुंद कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय, श्री नवद्वीप में धाम की जय, यमुना माई गंगा माई की जय, भक्त देव की जय, श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय, संकीर्तन याग की जय, श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर Om Gauri Krishna Samudeva. Hare Krishna. Om Gauri Krishna Samudeva. Hare Krishna. Om Gauri Krishna Samudeva. Hare Krishna. Om Gauri Krishna Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Om Gauri Krishna Shri Gauranga. Om Gauri Krishna Prabhupada.
So we will be just closing the curtains momentarily. So Prabhupada ki. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki. Hare Krishna. Looking forward to seeing you all again next week. Hare Krishna.